Milan recovered from the crisis thanks to innovation, growing tourism and investments. But the polarization between different parts of the city and society is likely to increase. So, Milan is proceeding sharing cities project in relation with other European countries. And it is connected with becoming a smart city. A smart city does not only cultivate its technological component, but must combine economic development and social cohesion, innovation, training, research and participation. So we had an interview to learn how Milan was constantly changing.
We have focused, while we had to decide which was our vision and which kind of projects to develop, Milan is really running ahead very much, thanks also to 2015 exposition, which was a big economic. Still, there is a big difference if we look at some parts of the city centers, and some new parts of the city which raised after 2015, such as the new skyline of Milano. Still, there is a big difference compared to other parts of the city in terms of peripheral areas, which are really still behind, do not take so much advantage. Specific parts of the population which are ahead. So the difference, the division is going to increase. And that's something which obviously, and since we are as a tool working on economic and social innovation, this is one of the problems that we obviously have to face. So what has been done in Milano was, first of all, everything was realized with public consultation, and which were the aims, the main expectations from the population, and then together with Chamber of Commerce, different stakeholders meetings in order to understand which were the segments on which was more interesting to focus on. And this enabled us to create 7 topics, which were a little bit designed as the most interesting ones, on which were realized some specific smart city guidelines on May 2000. The 7 pillars are the ones that you will find here. So, well-being of the city, mobility, energy efficiency, administrative simplification, and so on. But each one of these has in common what I told you at the beginning. So we think that technology has to be the aim to enable well-being of citizens in all these arguments, but it's not the final aim. So the final aim for us is the quality of life, social inclusion. The method has been a method, obviously not everything was fixed at the beginning. Reality was changing with us, so we need to face and define objectives, and then define a strategy, and then see if the objectives were reached or not. Otherwise, turn again and try to refix the strategy. So, this enabled us at the end of these years to define 5 lines of actions that we have, in which brought a lot of efforts as let's say as department. One is trying to give more and more power to support and provide tools to support urban regeneration in those parts of the city which need more. Improve sharing and collaborative economy. Startup and knowledge-intensive economy, it's another segment. And then, this is very peculiar for Milano, new craft and new manufacturing, because we have a tradition of craftsmen and manufacturing, which has to be supported thanks to the new technology. They have to perceive that there are new possibilities and so in order to survive to this new, let's say, word of and smart cities is in which we think of all the projects, such as Sharing Cities project, that really can be an improvement of life, thinking mainly of a transversal approach, so not a vertical one, but in which we can work on many different subjects altogether, mobility, energy efficiency, land costs, or whatsoever, in order to provide a better quality of life. I will give you a hint of what we have been doing in all these 5 lines of actions. First one, we have realized that what was going on in real life, was that more and more non-profit companies were turning into profit point of view, and opposite side, more and more profit companies were looking at the non-profit world. So we thought that we had to take the occasion of this hybrid enterprises coming up in order to support all the activities that had the aim of providing a positive effect into the real life of the people living in Milan. So supporting the birth of these kind of companies. How did we do it? First of all, for example, supporting the incubators. So at starting point, the municipality just gave money for the birth of private incubators, being that we thought that that was the strategic. Base Milano, for fantastic. This is coming from a regeneration that we handled directly because it was an industry that was completely recovered and redesigned to become a place for culture, for co-working. Then we used also new kind of tools like civic crowdfunding in order to be able to support projects that we could not really support intensively by our own, but could be projects of good social impact. Open Agri is another project which is approximately in the same area in which Sharing Cities is working, and it's about urban agriculture, so there are a lot of synergies in terms of urban regeneration. And Scuola dei Quartieri is one of the most important projects that we have because it has the biggest amount of money coming from the European Commission. Sharing the collaborative economy, it is one of the topics in which we were interested. You will see before, when we were in 2007, Milan was very different in the sense also of ways of moving people. And it really changed also a little bit the habits, the ways of the habits of the people, because Milano, you have to see it in general, Italy, is one of the cities in which there is the highest percentage compared to the other cities of Europe of ownership of cars, because we own a car in order to go around. So the big challenge of the administration was to try to introduce new services in order to turn around and try to force people to use sharing systems, which were cars and then bicycles as well for the last mile, trying to decongestion, obviously, and try to reduce the number of cars. This was the challenge. And it was very positive because it's actually started with the car sharing system, and now we have different providers which are on in Milano. And bicycles were a big transformation as well, because now we have we were the first operator. We have the first example of a bike sharing system with both classical bikes and electrical bikes in the same stations and within the same subscription, which was technically quite complicated because, for example, Barcelona was the one in Europe, was one of the cities which introduced before the bike sharing, the classical bike sharing, but then when they introduced the e-bike, they did separate kind of services, which because it was really more simple from a technical point of view. And this has really changed a lot because you see also people going for business which are using the bikes. The other big topic for us is giving support to startup and help the birth of these new good quality jobs. There are a lot of different practices. We have been joining, for example, European projects which enable exchange between startups for Italian startups and ones in Barcelona or Amsterdam and vice versa, in order to teach them and give them the tools to implement their business more easily and exchange in the different countries. But one of the most significant experiments that we've been doing was the Fabric experiment. Fabric does not have anything to do with sharing. It is a social startup incubator. And the idea came in 2014 because in the area of Partigiano, which is on the north, and it's a quite difficult area, there was a library, public library, which was not used actually anymore. So the idea was to regenerate it and transform it into a social startup incubator, finding a provider who is handling it for us. And we selected the projects that show to have an impact in their activities on the specific areas, target areas in which they are designed by the administration. And all the north part, which is the base, by the way, of the incubator from Politecnico. But meanwhile, all the incubators from the universities obviously do not have an aim on social startups. This year we have been providing a new kind of challenging. This is Fabric, and we are about to launch the new, let's say, urban manufacturing means that Milan has this DNA on manufacturing. We want to support it, giving them with another space, which did before Manifattura Camp, which are moments in which we try to put together the different actors of this big revolution in manufacturing, which are research, university, PMEs or startups. These are the numbers instead of the Fab Labs that we have in Milan, and the numbers of Manifattura. This camp enabled us to launch kind of opening of the manufacturing places to the people, to the citizens, which was a kind of event which we planned it for 2 years, and we had a lot of attendances. Last but not least, smart cities, smart citizens. So obviously we are trying to give tools to companies, but also to citizens in order to be able to provide new jobs and new services. So open data is meant for that. There are a lot of Wi-Fi's, obviously that's a specific service for the administration. Platform EO15 was realized before the exposition. And it is actually collaboration by different kind of operators, airports, transports, in order to provide the same together information real time. If you go to Linate and you see the real time status of the trains, it's thanks to this platform. Thanks to at the beginning of for the exposition and are still visible, which are giving the idea of what you can see as a tourist or in the 5 minutes walk from the site in which they are placed. And all these contents, which very quickly synthesizes what we say the smart city approach to still stay the first smart city in Milano, thanks to different approaches, mobility, energy, digital transformation, and whatsoever. And this is actually a kind of research which is handled every year.